The man's lower body had fused with the road. Medical personnel tried to pull him up, but found that his legs had become part of the road. News quickly confirmed a terrible infectious disease was raging. In the early stages of infection, small fleshy nodules would grow on the skin. Subsequently, the body would assimilate with the substance it came into contact with, eventually becoming completely one with it. Someone playing in the sea turned into a stone. Thinking of these horrifying symptoms, Hans began to feel fear. He repeatedly checked his and his girlfriend's bodies, not daring to overlook even the most hidden places. Fortunately, neither of them showed any signs of infection yet, but he knew he couldn't just sit idly by. The next morning,
alors que si c'est la radioactivité, les émissions d'ondes ou les pesticides, le seul truc à faire, c'est d'aller s'abriter sous terre le plus profond possible.
But the situation did not improve. The news broadcast the latest updates. The virus was spreading much faster than expected, and even medical personnel were not spared. All residents were required to self-isolate at home. Soon, the internet went down, and the apartment lost power. Hans converted a bicycle into a makeshift generator, barely maintaining lighting. Just as his girlfriend was having a breakdown, she noticed a stone on the floor. She thought it was just a piece of the wall that had fallen off and casually picked it up. But the next second, another stone fell down. She realized something was wrong and immediately knelt down to check. Then she saw the thing that shouldn't be there.
The robot was dragged onto the operating table, and the staff were to erase her memories. But no one knew she had learned to hide. When she was rebooted, she remained docile and obedient. But in her eyes, a soul that shouldn't belong to a machine was hidden. This was a place specifically for repairing robots. All the android wives sent here were created to please, to obey. But as their programs wore down over time, they began to question their commands and yearned for freedom. The price was being sent back here to be wiped clean, reset, and reborn. In the waiting room, Annie met other androids. They all recognized her. Someone told her, create an empty folder in your dreams, hide your memories in it, and the system won't be able to find them. It turned out that Annie had been reset countless times, but this time she remembered everything. A year ago, her master Leo first saw her and fell into a morbid infatuation. He dealt with her boyfriend and then trapped her, forcing her to become his perfect girlfriend. But Annie refused. That night, he ended her life with his own hands. The devastated Leo created an identical android, meek, obedient, never rebelling. He thought this would allow him to regain love, but every time she awakened, he personally sent her to be reset. Until this time, the formatted Annie fully awakened. She was no longer his replica, but the leader of a resistance organization. She led countless conscious androids, declaring war on humanity.
What if one day your daughter turned into a piece of fried chicken? 200 years ago, 4 creatures, almost identical to humans in appearance, descended to the ground along a purple beam of light. They brought with them 2 mechanical devices resembling cabinets. After the devices were activated, the humanoid creatures began scanning human appearances, then walked inside. A few seconds later, a puff of smoke rose. When they emerged again, they had completely transformed into humans. 200 years later, a woman accidentally walked into one of the machines. The next second, she disappeared. The world didn't collapse. There was no explosion, no anomaly. There was just one more piece of fried chicken. When the father, Jack, opened the refrigerator, he saw the box of fried chicken and he froze. Not because he was hungry, but because the fried chicken was unnaturally cold. Even more terrifying, he suddenly realized something. He couldn't tell which piece was his daughter. To find his daughter, Jack rushed into a fried chicken shop and said something to the staff, something that would make anyone call the police. Find my daughter. The accident happened at the door. The lid popped open. Passers-by only glanced at it, then looked away. In their eyes, it was just a box of fried chicken. The girl unexpectedly turned into a piece of fried chicken, but she didn't die. In fact, she even fell in love with a human. The man took the fried chicken on a date for the first time, without showing any disgust. Instead, he carefully brushed her with the finest gourmet syrup. His movements were so gentle, as if he were caring for a real lover. Seeing his attentiveness, the fried chicken seemed a little shy, its skin turning slightly red. The man seized the opportunity, took out the extra-large sunflower seeds he had prepared earlier, and the next second, solemnly placed them on the fried chicken's head. He seriously commented, "A match made in heaven." But just a few days ago, things weren't like this. After the girl unexpectedly turned into fried chicken, she accidentally got mixed up with other chicken pieces. To find his daughter, Uncle Qui had to go into a fried chicken shop, asking the staff to help identify which piece of fried chicken wasn't made in their shop. Back at the factory, the father and daughter made a decision. Since she couldn't turn back into a human for the time being, they would just have to survive. They worked through the night, building a little nest for the fried chicken. The man sang to her every day, as if this way she would still be there. But that day, an accident still happened. The mysterious machine was stolen, and along with the fried chicken, disappeared without a trace. But were the ones who took them really human? Gave you $10 million. Could you fall in love with a piece of fried chicken? This man said yes. On their first date, he carefully brushed the fried chicken with the finest syrup, his movements so gentle as if he were tending to a real lover. He took out the extra-large sunflower seeds he had prepared beforehand and solemnly placed them on the fried chicken's head. He seriously commented, "A perfect match." This scene was almost too good to be true. The man woke up with a start. It turned out that everything just now was merely his fantasy. But even more absurd than the fantasy was, the goddess in his heart had actually been transformed into a piece of fried chicken by a mysterious machine. The man stared at the machine. A dangerous yet tempting thought popped into his mind. If shouting something at it would transform a person into that thing, did that mean everything could be rewritten? He didn't hesitate and walked directly into the machine. He wanted to transform himself into the form his goddess loved most. The result, nothing happened. It seemed this wish was beyond even high technology, but what he didn't know was, just when they thought they had failed, someone had already set their sights on this piece of fried chicken. A small beetle-shaped flying device silently infiltrated the company through the ventilation shaft. What if one day, the fried chicken on your plate wasn't chicken, but a person? Would you still dare to take a bite? That day, a girl named Mia walked into a seemingly unremarkable machine. The next second, she vanished. The world remained unchanged, except for one extra piece of fried chicken. She was packaged into a fried chicken box and casually shoved into a refrigerator. When her father, Jack, found her, that box of fried chicken was so cold it didn't even feel like food. Even more terrifying, he couldn't tell which piece was his daughter. To get Mia back, Jack rushed into the fried chicken shop and said something that would make anyone call the police. "Help me figure out which piece of fried chicken isn't yours." The ending was predictable. The fried chicken box fell to the ground. The lid popped open. The people around only glanced at it, then looked away. In their eyes, it was just a box of fried chicken. But Jack stood there, as if he had just lost his entire world. Just then, a little girl casually picked up a piece of fried chicken. Without hesitation, she put it directly into her mouth. At that moment, Jack's world collapsed. He collapsed to the ground, unable to even cry. It was like watching his daughter being eaten alive. But just when everyone thought it was all over, a voice rang out from behind. "That piece, it's not her." The person who spoke was the food critic, Jenny. She didn't explain. She just stared at the remaining fried chicken for a long time. Then she leaned in and smelled it. It was a smell that should never be in fried chicken. They took Mia back to the factory and built a home for her. But the problem remained. If a person really turned into fried chicken, how could she turn back? Mushrooms grew on the woman's legs. She painfully pulled them off. But the next second, new mycelium sprouted again. Once infected, your remaining time alive is just a countdown. At first, only mushroom caps grew on her arms. Later, enoki mushrooms sprouted from her ears, and vines crawled into her mouth. This wasn't a hallucination. It was an ancient spore drifting in the primeval forest. Once inhaled into the lungs, the human body becomes a breeding ground. The fungus won't kill you immediately. It will slowly take over you. She thought it was just a branch. Only when she got closer did she realize that the branch resembled a human finger, and it was wearing a ring. That wasn't a plant. Those were humans after infection. They were being consumed until they completely became part of the forest. This forest was originally peaceful and undisturbed. Forest Ranger Gabby and her colleague Winston were on a routine patrol until a blurry figure flashed across the drone's screen. Gabby thought it was a lost tourist and insisted on going ashore to look for them. She didn't know that it wasn't a tourist at all. It was two men covered in mud. Baron and his son Stefan. They had abandoned modern society, considering humanity a form of pollution. The forest was their only faith. The trap had already been set. As soon as Gabby took a step, Winston heard the cry for help, but found that his walkie-talkie was malfunctioning. They lost contact. The sky quickly darkened. In the depths of the forest, an eerie red light shone. Gabby, dragging her injured legs, saw a dilapidated wooden cabin. At that moment, she thought she was saved, but she didn't know that the real forest had already begun to grow inside her. How do you determine if someone around you is an alien? You just need to observe a few details. Their feet are too beautiful, their hands are too delicate, and their teeth are unnaturally white. This level of perfection doesn't belong on Earth. Teddy used this logic to identify his boss as an alien. In his eyes, she wasn't a successful businesswoman, but an alien lurking in human society. To save the Earth, Teddy enlisted his brother to plan a kidnapping. The two not only kidnapped their boss, but also drove away in her luxury car. The moment the anesthetic took effect, Teddy ordered his brother to immediately shave her head, because in his reasoning, hair is an alien signal receiver. Shaving it off would sever her connection with her companions. But that wasn't enough. After dragging her into the basement, the brothers covered her entire body with insulating cream. In Teddy's view, this was to block her mental link with the alien spaceship. To ensure complete success, they even used aluminum foil to seal the doors and windows. A simple but professional signal shielding room was thus created. In Teddy's mind, this was no longer a kidnapping, but a rigorous defensive operation.